joy is like, it's foundational. It's so much deeper. If you allow yourself to feel it, if you allow yourself to tap into it in the workplace, it makes such a difference in how you show up as a leader.
Sheryl Raphael Whitaker is an author, executive coach, and leadership strategist who helps executives, teams, and organizations move from disconnection and overload to clarity, authenticity, and unshakable joy. At a time when so many leaders feel pulled in every direction, Sheryl reminds us that joy isn't the distraction, it's the differentiator. In this conversation, we'll uncover how joy transforms leadership, opens new doors, and equips us to rise to the opportunities in front of us. Welcome, Sheryl. I'm so excited that you're here and excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Denise. When you asked me, I was like beyond joyful.
Oh, wow. Well, like I said, I'm just super excited. I love the book, and I'm just so happy that, you could be here to have this conversation. So I'm going to jump right in because I have a lot that I want to really just talk about with today. So it starts with joy is such a striking title, Sheryl. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to center your book and your leadership philosophy on joy?
Yeah, well, so it's funny. It's a tough question for me to answer, Denise, and I'll tell you why. Because joy and as like the central foundation for who I am as a person has always been a thing. I arrived on this earth joyful. I often tell a story that my mom would tell, embarrassingly enough, that when I was a baby, she never knew when I needed changing. She never knew when I was hungry because in my crib, I was always smiling, gurgling, just happy to be here. And I've always been that way. And so when I got into leadership, I've just always been myself. I've always had a very, very difficult time separating who I am authentically as a person from who I needed to be and who I needed to show up as a leader. And so when I asked people to describe me, the word joy and happiness always came up. And so it's something that I've always held dear. And when I left corporate, escaped corporate, I like to say, when I left corporate, and started thinking about my point of view and based upon the experiences I've had and where leadership is today, I recognized that how I showed up and my success as a leader was not so much, or maybe in addition to who I am, but it's also a skill and a strategy and one that I should share.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's interesting, Sheryl, because so many professionals equate career success with like the grit, ambition, the struggle, the driving, if you will. And yet, the way that this book is written, it's clear that you see joy as a driver of success.
Yes.
How do you see it that way? How should others who read the book see it that way? And especially for women who are aiming for promotion or just wanting more from their work?
Oh, the word promotion. So there's a core claim in my book, and it's provocatively debatable, but it's what I truly believe. If joy is not your chief operating officer, if joy is not the foundation from where you lead, then you lose the right to call what you're doing leadership. And what I mean by that is you can lead in theory or in position, but if nobody's following you, you're not really leading. You could be performing leadership, but at the end of the day, it's about inspiring others. It's about coming together for a common good or outcome. And if you look behind you and there's nobody really there, you're out there by yourself, you're not really leading. And I think it's my position that people will follow you and you can accomplish great things if you lead from a place of joy. It's got to be central. And I chose COO as a title for my joy, C-suite, as opposed to CEO, because the COO knows everything. And the COO controls all the resources, knows where all the bodies are buried. And your COO can make or break an organization. And so for me and how I show up, and I suggest how other leaders show up, that operating system best be rooted in something as strong and really quite fundamental as joy.
Yeah, yeah. And I imagine you in order to feel and to operate as joyful, and having that in your operating system, you really have to have a very high level of self-awareness, right? And not just self-awareness, but I imagine also self-actualization.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because you have to be, I always pick a word for the year, and it's been the same word year after year for years now. And that word is intentional.
Yeah.
So put that in front of joy. Intentional joy means very much being self-aware, very much being in the moment, especially because work is crazy. Business is crazy. Our worlds are crazy. You know that, right? You're
Absolutely.
inside many huge organizations. And when everyone is going at a million miles per hour, you're not really focusing on the people around you, the people who are in your care, and how you're showing up for them. That's the whole reason why you're
Yeah.
there. And so, yes, absolutely, you do have to have an intelligence about you as to how you're showing up intentionally from a very good place, a joyful place, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. In the book, you talk about cultivating joy in environments that aren't always joyful. And you write, no more waiting for your organization to change or your circumstances to improve. You take full responsibility for two things: who you're becoming as a leader and the environment you're creating for others. How does a leader do that when the culture around them is just so stressful or so high stakes? I mean, come on, Sheryl. I mean, what are you anticipating or expecting? That we just kind of take a woosah moment? Or what do you mean by what you wrote there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a little Wayne Gretzky going on here, right? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. If you just give up and just say, oh, well, this is the way it is in corporate America, kill or be killed, then what are you saying? What are you saying for yourself and then for your organization and for your people? I mean, the studies are all out there. This is not anything new. There are many studies out there about joy, about happiness, about creating environments where people can feel respected, thrive, dare I say, even loved in the work sense. It starts with the power of one. So, and I think I might even say it in the book, Denise, that it's just like, I'm just trying to get one leader at a time to just wake up and just smell the roses and recognize how they show up is going to have a great impact on how other people show up. And that's going to lead to all those metrics and the things that we all know are important to the larger organization. So
Yeah.
it is very real. You can make a difference one at a time.
I believe it. But I'm curious, though, what role has joy played in your own career progression, and particularly in those pivotal moments when you stepped into bigger leadership roles? For example, you left a very successful career, not, but so long ago, actually, to start your own business. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about, and how did joy play into that decision, into that choice?
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I go into it a little bit in the book that my joy, I ran upon a leader who really did try to absolutely destroy every single solitary ounce of my joy.
Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Janet, the joy stealer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And going through having that experience, and that was at the time that was the biggest role I'd had ever been in, right? So I had ascended to a level with a lot of responsibility. It was very highly strategic. A lot of people were counting on me, and but at the same time, joy was being completely stripped from my like every ounce of my body. It felt like at the time, and then ultimately I claimed it back when I got to the level in my last role, my last corporate role. I recognized patterns. I recognized things happening in the organization, and then to me specifically, that had I not gone through the experience I had with Janet, I might have shown up differently in this last organization, if you follow. And once I recognized it, I said, oh, I've seen this story before. This is not happening. I could either accept what I was being given, which would have caused me to shrink in all ways, or I can step out into my own power and go out and do my own thing. It by no means was an easy decision. It was actually a very hurtful and traumatic for me and for my team exit. And then I had to really think through. It took me about 6 months or so, Denise, before I decided that, you know what? I can really impact and spread so much more information, joy, if you want to say that, whatever, if I didn't limit myself to one organization and gave myself an opportunity to work with many. And that is starting to happen. But I just wasn't willing to shrink. And and coming from that foundational place, knowing that ultimately at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay, which is one of the things that brings me joy. It gave me the power that I needed on the inside to make the tough decisions to do what I knew
Hmm.
was going to be right for me and my family.
Yeah, I hear you. And you know, it sounds like joy was sort of the anchor for you. Like you knew what it
Yes.
felt like to feel joy, to experience it, to be happy within, and you weren't at that time, but you let that sort of that operating system of joy lead you through making a very difficult, very tough decision because ultimately you weren't experiencing it there. That to you was unacceptable, and so you made a different choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I say often that joy gives you that fuel. It's like that rocket fuel. And
Right.
when I first started out and was thinking about this, I was sitting in happiness as the word, to be honest. Because I felt like joy, like people weren't ready for joy. You know, a lot of times joy is based in faith and has a different meaning for other people. And I was like, maybe joy is too deep for corporate, even though that's what I really mean.
Yeah.
Happiness comes and goes. Happiness, one day you're happy or one moment you're happy, next minute you're not. Circumstantial. Joy is like, it's foundational. It's so much deeper, but if you allow yourself to feel it, if you allow yourself to tap into it in the workplace, it makes such a difference in how you show up as a leader. People are waiting for it. And
Yeah.
then you open up the doors for others to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there some advice that you would give a leader or just anyone who wants to rise to the next level but feels weighed down by burnout or workplace challenges? I mean, sort of the way that it sounds like you did?
Yeah. Burnout, we use that word a lot, right? And burnout is a very, very real thing. The more I'm talking to folks about this, and this is where I just ground myself. It's really important. Again, there's nothing new here. But to find time to yourself, to prioritize
Yeah.
yourself. It's kind of like
Hmm.
that. What do they say when you go on the airplane about the oxygen mask, how you have to
Right.
take care of yourself before you can take care of those
Yeah.
in your care? It's the same thing. I have learned I have to prioritize my health, but not just eating right and exercise. I love my Peloton. It's also about taking care of what's going on between these ears, right? And sitting quiet with yourself. I have a friend who always tells me if I'm having one of those maybe not so happy days, to go outside and stand in the grass barefoot and just ground yourself with the earth. We are part of this universe, this ecosystem, and we try to pretend like we're not, right? With our corporate glass and suits and laptops and everything, but we really, really are, and it does absolutely help. That's a huge part of my world and what I do.
Yeah, you've got to find ways to help yourself, right? And not get stuck. I find that when those things happen to me, I stay in action. When I'm having a bad day, when things aren't going quite right, I will take a breather, or maybe I will take a walk, maybe I'll do something different. But what I don't do is just sit in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't sit in it. I start thinking about, okay, if this didn't work, what's my next move?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're reminding me, Denise, that, gratitude is a huge part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just trying to like look
Yeah.
at that glass as half full as
Yeah.
opposed to empty.
I mean, and the reality is that, you write in the book, if my memory serves me correctly, that joy in motion isn't about doing more. I mean, you say that it's not about doing more. It's really about doing what matters most. I
Yes.
think but that's tricky, right? I mean, because you just heard me say, hey, I stay in action, which means I'm still doing something, but I may be doing something different that matters to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking a walk or reading my favorite book or listening to music or, collaborating with people, whatever it may be. But how do you think leaders can tell the difference between like what's more and what actually matters? Like, is that an individual thing, or is there just a different way of thinking about it?
Yeah, I think that part of it is individual, especially depending upon your level as a leader. You have a tremendous amount of influence.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so what you focus on is what others are going to focus on. And so, yeah, so part of that is like really, really being honest with yourself and understanding what is it that I'm really trying to accomplish here. And I often tell leaders a lot of times to work backwards, focus on where you want to end up, and then make sure that you're working in a way that's going to help you get there. And a lot of times when that happens, when you do that, you stop. You
Mm.
stop. So it's ironic because it's joy in motion, which is really a part of the process of action,
Yeah.
right? Once you go
Hmm.
through awareness, acceptance, accountability, then the last is action. But you do have to stop and think about what is it I'm really trying to accomplish here? And am I getting in the way of that? And what do I need to change about myself in
Mm.
order to get to where I'm trying to go for myself and then for my team, my department, my organization? You really have to be present. We're so not present these
Hmm.
days.
Yeah. It's hard to slow down. I mean,
It
I
is.
think that's just the reality of it. It's hard to slow down, Cheryl. And I think the other piece of it is that, there's just so much noise going on, right? I
Ugh,
mean, we're tied to our phones, right? There's social media, there's all the different things that are happening around us. I mean, you do have to be, and you said it earlier, intentional about slowing down. And I think,
yeah,
it, at some point that feels cliche, but I don't think we can say it enough. Like, slow down.
yeah. But you know what it is? It's fear. A lot of times, like, why are we going so fast? Like, what are we afraid that we're going to miss out on? Or I was talking to a leader a couple of days ago, and she said to me, like, I can't slow down. And I said, why? She's like, because I said, what? She's like, I'm afraid if I slow down, I'll be beat out. I won't accomplish what I need to accomplish,
Mm, yeah.
et cetera, the list of fears. And then we just started writing down all of the fears. And then by the end of that conversation, she realized that a lot of those fears were just based in fear and
Yeah.
not in reality.
Yeah. Well, there's the acronym for fear, right? False evidence appearing real.
Yes, yes. That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites. Absolutely. And the big word, I call it the F word. It's false.
Yeah. Yeah. That is. Well, that's the operative word. That's the
That's the
operative
operative
word,
word.
right?
It's
Yeah.
not real. It's
Hmm.
false.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
I think the idea of leading from a place that feels steady and not strained is so powerful. But I think there has to be like some practices. I don't know. You tell me. I mean, what practices or mindsets help you get to that steadiness? And especially when you're in these high pressured roles, because it feels ultra competitive.
Well, that's because it is.
Yeah.
It is. But I gotta tell you, as a leader, I was at the top of my game. And a lot of that came because of how I worked with my team. It wasn't about me. I mean, think about Denise, think about servant leadership. What is servant leadership? That's being there to serve the people who are in your care. It's not about me. It's about them. That's the secret sauce. Once you focus on the others, it's the same thing in coaching, right? Once you focus on the person that you are trying to help accomplish a certain goal, you both win. If as a leader, so that to me, it's a shift in your mindset and
Big time.
recognizing that we are going to get there together. I'm going to help you, and then that's going to help us get to that particular outcome. Joy is so deeply rooted in that.
Joy is so deeply rooted in that. I like that. Yeah. I love this conversation we're having. And I really hope that folks, sort of open themselves to really understanding just how essential living with joy, seeking joy is. It is a game changer
If you allow it to be.
if you allow it to be.
If you allow it
Absolutely.
to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And there's a lot. It's maybe it's just about where we are as a world right now. There's a lot of conversation about joy, but not a lot of conversation about joy as a strategic tool or state of being that can help you as an individual leader thrive and then subsequently help organizations, teams, etc., do the same. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm. In the book, Sheryl, you write that joy centered leadership cannot always be propped up by a joyful mood,
Mm.
but it aims to have a faster path back to an experience of joy after the storm passes. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, what I mean by that is a lot of times when people think about the word joy, immediately it's happy,
Yeah.
fluffy,
Mm-hmm.
puppies, right? Children playing and the sound of laughter. And what I'm saying, it's not, it could be that for some people, but it is deeper. It is so much deeper than that. And that doesn't mean, like, as a joyful leader, you're going to have every day is going to be joyful or happy. There are going to be a lot of storms. What I'm saying is that joy helps you, like, it just anchors you. So you're able to weather those storms if you keep focusing on what truly matters at the end of the day. And that is your well being and then the well being of the folks who surround you. Because it is really hard. Life is hard, work is hard. We've got folks who are going through so many different things these days. And our world is changing. There's a lot of challenges, but you have to have something that you're anchored to. And as a leader, and I'm talking about leading from any seat, not just positional leadership.
Right,
You
right.
you have to be able to sit in something that strengthens you. And I think that that is joy.
Let's talk a little bit about what happens to a team or even an organization when a leader operates from joy in motion instead of reactivity.
Oh, the magic carpet ride.
Yeah, yeah.
All the good stuff starts to happen. So you stop experiencing fear You stop experiencing a lack of creativity. Innovation starts to happen. Psychological safety, which I know is a buzzword for some and a painful word for others, but you create an environment where it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn. It's okay to have real conversations. I use something with the leadership teams that I work with that's called respectful avoidance, where there is a huge elephant in the room where you need to give somebody some kind of feedback, but you don't want to hurt their feelings. And so you're nice instead of kind, and you're avoiding them respectfully, and then nobody's winning. If you are in an environment where joy is at the foundation, you can have real conversations, even hard conversations, because everybody is in a good place. It's just a lighter environment. It's a place where you can just the sky is the limit as far as what you can accomplish. I remember working with my last team. We did things that people just thought would not get done because I created an environment where everybody was able to say like, I don't like that, but in a way that nobody's feelings were hurt. Or
Yeah.
let's try this. All right, nobody dies, right? Nobody's going to die if this doesn't work. If this doesn't work, we fail fast, and we're going to use what we learned in order to make it better or to do better. It just opens the whole entire sky and world to a host of possibilities when you're
But I
sitting in a good
think
place.
I think you have to have these conversations, though, Cheryl, that talk about this with your leaders, with your team, because
Yes.
it's almost as if joy is the trunk of the tree, if you will, and then the branches are trust and safety and
Oh, I love that.
innovation, right?
Mhm.
Ideas that overflow, honesty, integrity. Like I think joy sprouts those types of things, but I don't necessarily know that people immediately associate joy. Like we talked about earlier in the conversation, oh, it's glee, it's puppies and blah, blah, blah. But
Right.
in this context, it's a very different thing. I mean, do you think you have conversations with your team talking about it? I mean, it's not something that you kind of just get to unknowingly, right? I mean, what's the process? How does my team understand the importance of joy, and particularly if I as a leader am using that as my own operating system?
Yeah, I think it really does start with exactly what you said, Denise, and that is you just start having the
Yeah.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We are, especially in the age of AI, we need to do a really great job as leaders of organizations, teams, etc., getting back to human-centered and heart-centered leadership,
Yeah, I agree.
reminding ourselves that, oh, yeah, we are human beings. We are all human beings, and there's no escaping that. So let's start reacting and acting and engaging with each other as human beings. Once the pandemic was over, organizations were very anxious to get everybody back to work for connection. Well, by all means, we are back in the office. Let's start using the time that we have, interacting with each other as human beings in that way. Start having these kinds of conversations and stop hiding behind our laptops and Zoom calls and phones and that kind of thing. It starts with a conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I think the
And people,
conversation is key to everything.
yeah, and people want it. I gotta tell you, since the book came out, Denise, I've had so many incredible conversations with leaders who are seeing things in a different way, questioning whether or not, like, am I a good leader after all, if I'm not leading from a place of joy? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying you're a horrible leader, but we all have room to improve, and there's ways to show up differently that could really make a huge impact for you and your team.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I get it. I do. I mean, it's workplace is always so very busy. Again, it goes back to slowing down and really doing what matters. That's where the value is. I want to talk a little bit about when people want to get promoted, especially women, because that's what this show is about, right? Is
Yes.
getting to the next level in your career, doing more of the things that you want to do. a lot of us feel like we have to prove ourselves by saying yes to everything. Right? Yes to everything. Yes, I'll take on that big project. Yes, I'll relocate. Yes, I'll do the things that others don't want to do. How does your concept of joy in motion challenge this mindset?
Oh my goodness, that is a really great question. And we have all been there. I like to say that if you could feel really good and solid in yourself and who you are, then you're not, when you say no to something, someone said to me the other day, no is a full sentence, no is a complete sentence. But when you say no to something, you really are saying yes to something else that, dare I say, may bring you joy. So, for example, I remember a little further back in my career when I was single, my organization said, "You're single, Cheryl. You can go anywhere we send you because you don't have it." I was like, "Okay, but because I'm single, I don't want to go just anywhere." And I had to say no. And as a result of that, there were sacrifices that I made, right? Because there were some roles that I wasn't being considered for. And then I just moved on to like, the next thing. But at the end of the day, when you say no to something, you are saying yes to yourself,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
I love
know?
that. I think you also have to, establish some boundaries, right? I
Yes.
mean, I think there are some boundaries that you want to kind of navigate within so that you're not saying yes to everything, but you're saying yes to the things that matter most, that bring the most value, that point you in the direction that, in fact, you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I have a t-shirt, I love it, and it says, "She knew she could, but she needed a break, so she said no."
Okay. I love that. I love that. Now, as we get further along here and we're kind of getting ready to land this plane, I love this conversation, but I want to
Me
make sure I
too.
get this question in. Who do you think are joy committed leaders today? Are there like two or three leaders that stand out for you that really embody what you're talking about in the book?
Ah, yes, that is a very, very tough question because when I say someone is joy committed, they are committed to being who they are. They are showing up as their authentic selves,
Okay.
really. And they all also in the method, in the joy shift method, they are committing to like they've gone through the awareness, they understand that okay, I really, really do want to be committed. I want to take action and I want to be accountable for joy, right? That's what we're really saying when I say joy committed. But when I think about leaders who are out there, there are many of them who are, within my own circle. But leaders who are out there, I think of Michelle Obama. She's the first
Yeah.
name that comes to mind, even with her book Becoming, because she could have gone in so many different directions, but she decided to say yes to herself and is doing what brings her joy. I spent last week at the conference for women in Pennsylvania, and Hoda Kotb was there. I mean, and she's someone who's really super
Yeah.
big on joy.
Right.
And
Right.
and Mel Robbins, was one of the other keynote speakers there, and she's been through a million different things, and but has found ways that work for her. I think any leader who is able to stand on their own 2 feet, be exactly who they are without having to apologize for it, is someone who I would say is a joy committed leader.
Yeah, I love that. I think the other thing that I want to add there, though, is that circumstances don't always have to be great in order for you to make progress,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Right. I mean, like things aren't always going to flow smoothly. You may not get the promotion, right? I mean, things may not go the way that you want them to. Maybe you weren't selected for the project, but the reality is that you don't need everything to be great to make progress. It just means that, hey, maybe you look elsewhere. Maybe you do something totally different. Maybe you open another door that may have been closed. But I think it's always around, and I say this all the time in many of the other episodes that I've had with other guests. I think it's really about being okay with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah,
Comfortably uncomfortable,
right?
I like to say.
Absolutely. Comfortably uncomfortable, and allowing yourself to try new things, do things that, you want to do, like make your goals, create your objectives, and go for it. And don't stop when things don't work.
Ah, Denise, I mean, I was not setting out to write a book. I was setting out to, continue on different levels of leadership in corporate and then retire. If what happened to me didn't happen to me, you and I we wouldn't have met, first of all,
That's so true. Yeah.
right?
That would have been sad.
And I
Yeah,
would have
that's
hired,
true.
right? I mean, I probably would have hired you to come into my organization and do amazing things, right? But and we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't have written this book. So I love so much that message. It's just like, you keep swimming, keep
Yeah.
swimming.
Through lane after lane after lane, you just keep going.
Yep.
Now, tell me, in your opinion, what are 3 characteristics or traits that make a person promotable?
Oh, what makes you promotable?
What make in your mind? You've headed
Yes.
up human resources in large organizations. You know about hiring the right talent. We've talked about joy. We've talked about the importance of it being an operating system. But
Yes.
when you're out there bringing people into the organization, or people who are within the organization that are trying to grow, what do you think are 3 characteristics that make that person promotable?
First thing that comes to mind is fearless, and not reckless, but
Okay. Cautious fearlessness? Okay.
yeah. I'm just thinking about leaders who I have promoted in the past. They've had this fearlessness that I've always been attracted to, and then I know that they're going to make hard decisions, and they're going to create an environment where people can thrive and do their best. Creativity is another thing that's really, to me, is really, really important. And this one's going to sound kind of strange and might be debatable, but you must love people.
Okay.
You must love people. And and some would argue with that. I know a lot of leaders who can't stand people. They've told me so, right?
But yet they're leading and influencing
And
each
they're
and every
leading.
day.
I had
Okay.
one leader say to me, I love being a leader. I just can't stand the people. Who are
That's
you
weird.
leading, my
Yeah.
friend?
Right.
Right? So fearless, creative, and love the people. We're all people.
Yeah. That's right. Thank you so much, Sheryl. I really loved our conversation today. Thank you for joining us for this heart-opening conversation on the power of joy and how it can transform not just our leadership, but our entire way of being. I love the book. It Starts with Joy, The Inner Shift That Changes Everything by Sheryl Raphael Whitaker. And so if you found today's episode meaningful, share it with a friend or leave a review on your favorite listening platform. Your voice helps this podcast reach more hearts and minds looking for their next breakthrough. Thank you so much, Sheryl. We appreciate you coming through.
Thank you so much. This was the best, Denise. I appreciate it. Anytime, my friend, anytime.
Thank you. Stay tuned. There's so much more to come in season 2 of Promoted with Denise Harris. Bye for now.